Word to the wise. If you want your diehard Star Trek core audience to watch a show, no matter how good it may be, probably don't use this as your starting promo image. Hello, everyone. Terrence here with Hollywood Already Did It. If you haven't already, go ahead, like, share, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment, ring that bell below. Anytime we have something, you will be among the first to know. Starfleet Academy is here. It is the show that I think was destined to sort of be the death nail and the paramount sort of run of Star Trek shows and movies. It's been a mixed bag of Paramount since they've taken over the Paramount Network version of the Star Trek shows. Let me say this. Let me give a little baseline as to what my Star Trek fandom is. I cut my teeth and was raised on Next Generation and Deep Space Nine. Those are my bread and butter. Those are my 1A and 1B. Although I'm probably the oddball of the world, I prefer Deep Space Nine to Next Generation just because it gets a little bit more headier and a little bit more talks about some things that are a little bit more tough to talk about, especially in those times. So I really appreciate Deep Space Nine versus Next Generation. But I continued on. I watched all of Voyager. It started Star Trek as a whole. I just started to fall away from, not out of love with. I just stopped watching when Enterprise came. I did go to the movies and watch the Kelvin timeline, J.J. Abrams movies. But picking back up, I've seen several episodes of Discovery. Have not watched it in its entirety, although I plan to. I have not watched any of Strange New World, and I did watch Picard all 3 seasons, even though season 1 and 2 were rough. But season 3 was a nice sort of return to form. That was a great show and got me excited a little bit about the future of what Star Trek could bring. And then they released a movie that I just won't speak of. But the trailer for Starfleet Academy came out, and the first couple of teaser posters and came upon folks, and it looked bad. It looked like they were trying to make almost a CW-esque version of Star Trek, and this is not the Starfleet Academy that I think most people have sort of envisioned in their brain to be. That said, I just think that someone just did and pulled and shot photos and just made a terrible promo run for this show, and has done themselves a bit of a disservice to hide what actually is a quality pilot episode. And I say that to say that a lot of sci-fi has a hard time in that first episode, and then it takes a minute to sort of find its footing. If this is what we're getting in the pilot episode, I'm actually kind of excited about what this show is planning to bring going forward. It's a really well done pilot episode, and I think it happens to hit upon and touch on some of the points and feel very much like the Star Trek of old, while still spinning in some new narratives and some new fresh faces and some youth to it, so that it doesn't feel as stale as it sometimes can be for a newer generation of Star Trek fans. First episode of Starfleet Academy is called The Kids These Days. And it starts off with 2 actors that I did not know were even part of this series, in Tatiana Maslany, who plays the mother of our main lead A. She plays Caleb's mom. Her name is Anisha. She gets caught up into a situation with a part Klingon, part Tellarite gentleman named Braca, who's played by Paul Giamatti, who looks like he's going to be a recurring sort of villain throughout this series. Braca, with Anisha, was stealing food. Anisha was doing it to feed her family. She was poor. She was trying to feed Caleb. She was trying to do things on the up and up. She got tied in with Braca. Braca did things a little bit filthier, a little bit dirtier, a little bit grimier, and he wound up killing a Starfleet Academy officer, which was a federal crime. So they get taken to court, if you will. Starfleet decides to put him into prison for life and to put Anisha into a rehabilitation center, also for life. And this is done by Captain Nala, who you could tell had some reservations about what she was doing. This was the best case scenario that she could sort of provide to Anisha. And Anisha sort of was like, "You promised me," and she's like, "Well, this is what I can do." Anisha's thing's like, "Well, what happens to my son, Caleb, because who at this time probably 6-ish, 7-ish, maybe ish, by 5-ish at that point. She asks what's going to happen to him, and Nala's like, well, he's going to become a ward of Starfleet, which Brock is like, cool. He's going to just you guys are going to accept him and be him and one of y'all. That's a prison worse than what I'm getting. But so they take him off, they take her off. While she's getting taken off, she does scream out to Caleb like, "Hey, don't trust them at all, ever." Which is information that he takes to heart because he then gets into a room with Nala. Nala's like, "Look, I'm going to watch after you. Just trust me. I trust you. I got you." He's already being a man who's thinking like his mother, thinking of the streets, if you will, thinking of the world, being a man about town. And he essentially tricks Captain Nala to go pick up a bear that he dropped. And in that, he takes her pin, her Federation pin, and uses that to take an escape pod and leave that place and to just disappear and be gone, which Captain takes to heart and has basically used that moment to say she resigns and leaves Federation, leaves Starfleet. She we learn later that she had a situation where with her son, and she just doesn't want to separate kids anymore, moms from kids. She felt bad. It didn't sit right with her, and so she retired and then spent a good chunk of her life trying to find Caleb. Then we speed ahead 15 years. 15 years pass. Caleb has quite the rap sheet now. He is a man of the town. He is robbing, stealing, whatever he can to survive. He's doing it, and he's learned some new tricks of the trade as he's gone along. Not by school or education, but he's learned things that has allowed him to make it as far as he has within life. He's being paraded back to a prison, which signals off to Starfleet they get wind of where he's at. So Starfleet offers to Nala to come back to, hey, return to Starfleet Academy. We want you to be the chancellor of our new version of Starfleet Academy. Because I didn't mention this, but this takes place in the same timeline as the second half of Discovery. Post when they jump ahead, it's after the burn, which is a big piece of what happens in Star Trek Discovery. So once the burn happens, this is sort of the ramifications of that, which means Starfleet doesn't exist at this point. There is no version of Starfleet. It's all sort of, this is watching the Federation sort of rebuild itself after such a catastrophic event. And so they're asking her to come back on to rebuild and teach the next wave of Starfleet Academy. She wants no parts of it. She's like, nope, I gave that up because I couldn't do what I promised out to do and set out to do. And they sort of dangled the carrot in front of her, like, well, we found Caleb. Can I get you back? And she's like, cool, only if he can get into the school with me. Like, we are a package deal. If he can't get into the Federation, into the Starfleet Academy, then I don't want to be a part of it. And so they do. So she goes to the prison to meet him and sees that he is not the young soul that he once was, that she once saw. But she confesses to him because he's very adamant, like, I want no parts of you. I don't want to be a part of you. You separated from me from my mom. So at that point, she's like, look, I quit. And she tells him all the things she's been looking for him all this time. And so it sort of creates sort of a soft spot between the two of them. And after some back and forth and some saying, hey, I will help you find your mother, uh, he decides to go and enter Starfleet Academy. So we see the two of them enter into this place. It's cool. Starfleet Academy in this scenario, still the home base is still in San Francisco, which is where they're going to. But the ship acts as a sort of a vessel, a training ship. It's still an actual moving ship. It's the USS Athena. It's still an actual moving ship, but a working ship. But it's also a training ship. It's used for education. It's used for training. It's used for getting them all from transported from one place to another. So they get there, and this is where you sort of start meeting a bunch of different characters. Which I'm not going to go into all of them because I think as we go along, some episodes are going to be more. If you know Star Trek, some episodes are going to be stronger for one versus stronger for another. But I'll mention a couple because they're kind of key to some of the things that I think Star Trek as a whole is sort of doing. There are a lot of mixed alien races in this. We got Klingon, part this, part that. It's a lot. Some of the first characters that we meet on this ship are First Officer Laura Throck, who is part Klingon, part Jem'Hadar. Um, this is probably the first character that felt tonally off from everything else that we were getting at first. It started to grow on me as it blended in with the rest of the show, but like when she first comes in, she becomes a hard ass to Caleb. But Caleb needs, because Caleb is pretty much like, I don't want to be a part of this. You're not cutting my hair. You're not doing nothing to me. And she sort of breaks him a little bit and sets him straight. But it comes off so odd versus the way that everybody else is speaking. And I'm like, all right, and it's going to take me a minute to get used to her. But we also meet a Klingon named Jaden, who was a part of Starfleet, who's in the class with Caleb, who's a Klingon who doesn't like violence and who is going in for medical officer. Like he is trying to go into the medical field. He prefers to do that, which is a good sort of twist and play on, hey, that's going to be an interesting character to follow because if you know Klingons in their entire nature, he is the antithesis of that. And so it's going to be good to see how he got there, and B, what it seems like his parents sort of installed that in him, because his parents had him, his mom at least had him bird watching. So he got that from his parent, one of his parents. But it's going to be fascinating to see that character grow and get more information about him. I think out of the other new characters, there's a woman named Genesis that we meet. Not a lot known about her. And then there's a gentleman named Darum who as an aspiring cadet is sort of the foil, if you will, to Caleb a little bit. He comes from a silver spoon, comes from a background where he gets what he wants to get, which is the opposite of Caleb, who always has to fight and tooth and claw for everything. So they're going to be, I think that they're eventually going to be BFFs one day, but for the time being, right now they are at odds with each other. And then there's probably the most interesting character of the new class, outside of Caleb, is Sam, who is short for Series Acclamation Mill, which is a hologram. It's the first hologram that is being put into Starfleet Academy. And she's fun. She's fun to watch and fun to see. She's a hologram who's only been on existence for 4 months. So everything is new to her. But they started her off at 17. So she's a 17-year-old within this world. It's just a lot happening. And it's going to be fun to sort of see her grow and become whatever the world shapes her to be. But those are sort of the main kid characters that we get. And then we see Captain Nala go to the bridge and meet her crew. I'm not going to go over the names, but they're all there. One of them is cool. I think it's Lieutenant Ya, is played by, if you're a wrestling fan, I saw her immediately. I was like, what the heck is Becky Lynch doing here? So Becky Lynch is doing there, and it's great because she's keeping her accent, like the way she speaks. So it's, you hear Becky talking. It's fun. I'm glad she got to play that. Oh, there's a familiar face too. The Doctor from Voyager is back. He has aged up his hologram on purpose. He added a code to his stuff so he can age himself up, so his actor version can look fine. But he has the knowledge from when he was Voyager all the way up to the many years that have passed that exist between those. So, but he's still him. You still get him a bit of himself in all of that. So the Doctor is here as well. The main piece of the story, though, is that Caleb has a moment where he hacks the computer to sort of get a message to his mom, because he's trying to reach out to his mom to see, hey, where are you? This was the line of communications that we were going to use. You're not answering me back. What's going on? Turns out that Braca, Paul Giamatti's character, escaped from prison and has gotten a hold of those messages and sort of ambushes the Athena en route to San Francisco. And so there's a lot of back and forth. The whole ship sort of hears that Braca says, hey, I found this through this message. He plays the message so they all know that Caleb is the one responsible for them being in the predicament that they're in. But then it's cool to see all the kids kind of come together and use the skill set that they all kind of have to provide to put together to come up with a plan to get out of this. And Caleb's piece of it helps probably the most, but they all have a part to play. Genesis is sort of almost being like the person keeping all the strings together, but Sam illuminates stuff. You got Darum out basically risking his life to get the code that Caleb's going to need. Sam and Jaden trying to save the first officer. So it's a lot happening here. They all have their purpose. They all have a point in this. They all come together, put all their powers together, all their brains and knowledge together, and foil Rocca. And his ship gets destroyed, and then he has to take a Federation pod and to escape, and he's gone. Which is why I think he's a character that's going to sort of pop up from time to time throughout and just be a nuisance to Caleb and the captain. I will say this: it's important though that before Baraka left, he did inform or give the idea that Anisha helped him escape, like they escaped together, and then she took off, um, which is another sort of bug in Caleb's ear. So they save the ship, everything is good. They then head and take that ship off to San Fran. They dock there and get to work for school. But because everybody heard the message, everybody knows what's happening. Uh, Caleb's going to have to get a bit of a punishment for for his crimes, and so Captain comes in and tells him like, "Look, here's your options." I made it laid it out. Here's what we got. You can either leave, just leave, go about your business. But if you leave, I'm not going to be able to do, and you're not going to be able to have the faculties to go ahead and try to find your mother. That's one option. Or the other option is stay here in Starfleet, acquiesce, be a part of the school, learn stuff, do the things that you need to do here. If you do so, you're going to have to do 90 days of being on the ground. You're grounded. I mean, you can't go on any ship missions, any ship training can't happen for you. You're stuck here on the ground. And you're going to have to do 100 hours of community service, to which he eventually accepts the job or the thing of Starfleet. It's like, nope, this is where I'm at it. I think in a way he's starting to sort of see, because he's never had one before. He's heard of Jaden's relationship with his parents. He's seen everybody else's sort of relationship with their parents. This is kind of the closest figure that he's going to have to a mother figure right now. And so it's going to be interesting to whenever they do actually, you don't get Tatiana to not bring her back at some point. Whenever they do see his mom again, how that response goes when she sees that he is now in Federation stuff and working for with Captain Nala. But yeah, I I was impressed. I liked this show way more than I thought I was going to. I like the characters, some more than others. It's still going to take me a minute to sort of wrap my head around First Officer. I actually like First Officer. I liked her a lot more when they were healing her, because you got to see more of her, what I think her actual personality is, as opposed to putting on this facade. I think that was what was jarring me. But all the kids, surprisingly, I don't have one of the kids that I don't like. Even Darum, who is a foil to Caleb, he works, and you need that to make everything sort of work together. And so while they were promoting it and making it look like a CW show, none of it actually feels like that. It feels Star Trek, like it is Star Trek at its core. And you get the hope, and you get the moments of like, oh, we're trying to do something more, because the big thing is still the burn. They still have to try to come up out of the ramifications of the burn. And the moment when she gives her, there's a moment in this episode where she gives a big announcement to everybody on the ship to just say, here's the reason why Starfleet Academy exists, and here you are stepping on the shoulders of all that have sort of existed behind you, and you sort of start seeing the names of the Hall of Fame. You start Uhura, Kurt, Pike. You see the names. Everybody's name is there, and you start getting that chill up your spine. You're like, yeah, yeah. This is the DNA is there. This feels like what it's supposed to feel like. Very different than watching, I think, Picard season 1 and season 2. None of that really felt like Trek. It felt like, yeah, you had some of the characters from there, but it felt very dark and hollow. This still feels hopeful. And while we are injecting some new youth into the world, it all still works and all still blends quite well. So I have not watched the second episode yet on purpose, because I wanted to do this review without being jaded by 2 episodes. And they're dense episodes. Their first one's an hour 15. I don't know what the runtime on the second one is. They're so long that I just wanted to talk about this before we sort of jumped into that. And there's still characters that we haven't seen yet, because I know Tig Notaro is an act. They're around on this show, and so And then in the promo, there's another student that we haven't clearly have not met all the kids yet. But for what we got for this first episode, bravo. You don't we don't get many pilot episodes that sort of hit it, get a base hit, get a man. I got a two base hit. I say you get two base hit on this first run. Like this is rare. And so yeah, I think we'll see how the second episode goes. I'm going to do that. I'm going to space them out a little bit because when I get to the third episode, I'm going to be a bit behind because I got a trip to make. But I'm going to get to that second episode and then we'll sort of see what this is going. But whoever voted in the poll to say you should watch this, damn it, you were right. What did you guys think about the first episode of Starfleet Academy? Go to leave your thoughts and comments in the comments below. If you haven't already, you can follow us on X at HollywoodADI. You can hit us up on email at HollywoodAlreadyDidIt@gmail.com. We also have a podcast with the same name. That's on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, anywhere that plays podcasts. We're there. And like always, I got my ticket. You got yours.